Is China about to blow up the gold market in just 2 days? And more importantly, does it actually really matter? Well, let's find out. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcade Economics on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon outside. I believe it's July 22nd, which would make July 24th 2 days away, when China is banning leveraged retail gold trading. And we've seen a lot of headlines. I saw one YouTube thumbnail about how gold was on its way to 38,000 and how this is going to change the gold market overnight, and figured for this week's update we would check in on this as we sit here with silver futures just crossing back over 60 bucks after quite a sell-off it's been in the past couple weeks, past couple of months. Gold back around 41.40 with the futures. So, is it going to go, is the gold price on its way to 38,000 like the one YouTube thumbnail was suggesting? I sat there and watched on double speed, and it was, again, I forget his exact reasoning, but it was one of those, if we backed it to M2 or M1, that's what would clear this or that rate. Which, similar to when I hear people talking about, what gold or silver should be, M1 inflation adjusted. I take it with a grain of salt. I mean, it's not incorrect, but unless we go back on a gold or silver standard, it's interesting, but does that mean that you're going to be able to sell your gold or silver at that price? Probably not. So anyway, that $38,000 gold headline, I'm not sure that I would expect that. Definitely not on Friday. And what should you expect? Will this be the game changer where everything is wildly different? I'll give you the short answer. I don't know. I tend to doubt it. And actually, I'll be the first to admit I haven't really read too closely to the details of what they're doing, which I think is a good thing in my own, at least for me. By all means, if you want to know the details and the minutia of that, I support that. Just maybe I was influenced by my talk with Jim Rogers a couple weeks ago, where it was interesting. The one thing it seemed like he was pointing out is, with gold and silver, at least as long as governments are spending money wildly and doing a lot of stuff that doesn't seem to be anywhere near fiscal management. I think that's one of the nice things about gold and silver. Maybe you could say this to some degree with stocks, where governments are going to continue printing money. Prices of just about everything is going to continue to go up. Still think there's a good case to be made that gold and silver will go up more than stocks, or said in other terms, that stocks will decline in real terms. Again, with silver, it's interesting. I think silver last year was dragged up partly by gold, and also that we did eventually hit a shortage. So silver, on the other hand, we really haven't seen monetary demand come in. So there's a lot of things that still could happen that could change this. Yet if you really wanted to simplify things and not spend too much time worrying, and I know that's a common thing, certainly I was guilty of, I suppose I perpetrated that in my early years of the show, yet I guess I was thinking this even before the conversation with Jim, but it's like, even if let's say the Trump administration comes out and says, we need to pay off some of this debt, we're going to reset gold to 50,000, which, according to the Federal Reserve Accounting Manual, would result in, basically, if they remark the Fed gold certificates to that new price, then you get a credit or a check, essentially, to the Treasury Department. They could take some of that and pay off national debt. For what it's worth, to actually pay off the national debt, and this is assuming all of the gold is there. Stephen Gleason of Money Metals has talked about how even if it is there, there's some big purity issues. I think he said it would take, even if China's refineries were going full time on it, it would take them about 2 decades. So we'll leave that aside. But still, if just in terms of the gold that is reported to be there and what price last I checked, and this was about a month ago, it's about $150,000 you could pay off if you mark the 261 million ounces of gold and you reset it to $150,000 an ounce. That would give you enough to pay off the 39, I guess it's almost 40 trillion of debt. So again, I don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. I'm definitely not expecting that. Also, I mean, you could have them pay off some of the debt with the reset to 20,000. I had wondered if that might be something that was being considered even before Trump came into office. I was hoping, just from the degree that we see the government's bankrupt, and at least in any financial experience I have of corporates, I think the one thing I've seen is that the longer you pretend that the situation does not exist and just spend faster, usually doesn't work out well, which is what seems to be happening. So I was hoping maybe there was some chance that the Trump administration was going to avoid that. I guess we'll see. 2.5 years left. Interesting. They've talked about auditing Fort Knox on and off. Scott Besson said they were going to monetize the assets on the U.S. balance sheet for the good of the people. Then he said on several occasions that he wasn't referring to gold. So either case, I don't know that that's imminent or by any means guaranteed. And similar to what is going on with China, I guess a little bit of a tangent there, but usually these things, I mean, we've seen a lot of these events in the past couple of decades. I remember there was one back in 2016 that Jim Rickers was all excited about. And just in my experience, I would not bet the farm on something big happening on Friday. I don't know, gold be up a couple $100. Could shutting down some paper leverage in China have an impact? Absolutely. Yet, does it matter in the longer term? I guess what I was getting at with the reset number before was that, let's say even that the U.S., we'll go back to the U.S. for a moment, they decided to do a reset, they make gold 50,000. Well, certainly if you have gold, that would be good and that would be fun, and, you know, I guess a lot of people watching this, and I would be happy about that. I mean, that would be exciting in its own right, yet I've thought about it before. Let's even say that happened. Like, if you go far enough out, unless you get some massive overhaul of governance, I mean, I'll leave my thoughts on the Trump administration aside, war thoughts. I won't dig into that today. I'm firing enough of that out on Twitter, so if you really want to know that, you can go there. But I mean, if they keep spending, it's like the drunken alcoholic gambler. You know, you keep sending them back into the casino. It almost doesn't matter what the size of that person's bankroll is, they're going to ultimately blow it. And I guess it's like when you think about where gold was 25 years ago, $250 at the turn of the century, and now here was up to 5,000, now to 4,100, but over a long enough time scale, even if they did reset the gold price to 50,000, if you don't somehow change the underlying behavior, there would be some day where even that would be undervalued, and maybe it's 50 or 100 years from now, but there'd be other people like me sitting there talking to other people like you about how, wow, this spending's getting really out of control. This current gold price of 50,000 no longer balances the economic flows. So it's interesting when you think about that. I'm not saying gold's going to 50,000 tomorrow, though some point, maybe it'd be your kids or your grandkids or their grandkids. But it's interesting when you think about it that does not seem to be a pattern that is easily seen changing. I know it like always seems like in our current day and age, things are wilder and worse than they have ever been before. Yet, maybe do we just know more about that because more things are captured in the internet and social media age? I mean, maybe this is some form of this has been, I mean, the whole Roman Empire, I mean, a lot of parallels. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe that's human nature, and expecting that to change, maybe that's the unrealistic part, and maybe 100 or 1,000 years from now, if we haven't nuked everybody off the planet by then, we'll still be seeing some form of quantitative easing or, you know, putting more copper alloy in the coins. So to the thing with China, I mean, I don't know, it'll move the price one way or another. I wouldn't, if you want to say it's going to, then sure. But regardless of what happens, I mean, I don't think that's going to be the bigger determinant. I mean, you can see the way that the eastern half of the world is going to gold. You can see even aside from the war, the pressures that were already driving the world towards gold, and that don't seem to be changing in any way. Again, Pete Hegseth is up asking for the 50% increase in the military budget, which is truly stunning. When you think about all the money that's been spent on the military, that like you could possibly need another 50%. And I'm reading in multiple places, double check this, I'm not military analyst, but I keep seeing stories about how the U.S., some even speculating that the reason for the pauses are that the U.S. is running low on missiles and bombs. I've seen it in enough places from respectable people that I believe there is truth to that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Be careful how I phrase things in our fake news age. Hard to know what's real out there, so I'm not claiming to be on these supply lines, but if I had to bet an ounce of silver one way or another, I would say that there is some truth to what's going on there. So here it is, even this late in the game, calling for 50% increase. His questioning in front of Congress didn't go well yesterday. We'll leave that at that. And either case, it's not as if we're where we are and all of a sudden it's like, wow, look at Elon go. He's really doging it up there. They're implementing these things, and you know, we're going to have to eat some short-term pain, but they're cutting the fraud out. We're rebuilding the system in, you know, an honest fashion. I mean, they're doing the exact opposite of that. I mean, you see the country being looted, which is very hard for me to watch anyway. So, you know, the combination of all those things and all the things that led you to watch channels like this, other channels, other videos, if you've purchased gold and silver, I think those are the things that are going to be driving the gold market and the silver market. And I don't know, is it reasonable to expect the next 25 years will be like the last 25 years? I mean, at the rate we're headed, we're getting Hegseth instead of Doge cuts. That wasn't a good trade if you're long-term short gold. So we will see what happens with the leverage trading in China on Friday. Maybe it moves the price a little bit. I don't think that it'll be the end of the world. Partly maybe I'm just skeptical because over the past 17 years since I've been studying and following the gold and silver markets, there's been a ton of these where, oh, this is going to be the game changer. And I don't know that that's quite how these things work. And that's okay. Maybe I'll be right or not. But in either case, with silver back over $60, gold back over 4,100, have we seen the end of the sell-off? Don't have the first clue. I mean, possible, yet at least to me, I'm going through with that decision to increase the size of my mining stock bet, which is not advice or recommendation to anyone else, but just when I look at what's happening, the drawdown that we've seen in the metal prices, and the relative valuations of where the miners are, I certainly have not seen anything that has made me feel uncomfortable with that. Again, that's not necessarily what you should do, but just sharing my thought process in the hopes that that one is helpful. So anyway, hope you're having a great week out there. I'm going to go back, do some more writing and piano practicing now, which is coming along quite nicely. I'll have a music link for you guys in a couple of weeks, working on something special. I have Bill Holter coming back on the show in a few weeks, and reminds me I got to start working on something to get it finished up. But either case, hope you're having a great week out there. And in case you're still too worried about the short-term ups and downs of the gold and silver market, well then just listen to what Jim Rogers had to say when had the pleasure to catch up with him a few weeks ago, and that one's coming your way here.